All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Cape Coral Waterfront Podcast. Today, I have a guest in the studio, Captain Chris from Offshore Hunters. Thanks for coming, Chris.
Good morning. Yeah, glad to be here.
So I met these guys. I met Captain Chris and his dad down at the Punta Rassa dock, actually, and they were on a beautiful boat. I just commented on their boat, and they were coming back from a fishing trip. Why don't you tell me how long you guys have been doing it?
Well, we started about 6.5 years ago was when we first got started into the whole guiding. We've been fishing here since 2003, so we'd been really passionate about it, and we decided to take the next step and become guides and start taking people out for offshore trips.
Okay, so 2003 you started, and then you started guiding in
2014.
2014. And yeah, when I was at the dock and I looked over, I saw this boat, because I was in a 20-foot center console, and thing was like, tell us about your boat.
So we have a 31-foot Yellowfin. It's a custom center console. They're built in Sarasota, Florida, so local to Florida.
Okay.
It's one of the better riding and top-tier center consoles out there on the market, and it's a super great ride. It's very comfortable for us and our clients, and lets us run pretty far offshore for what we go and target every trip.
Right, and that it has two 300s on it.
Yes, we just put two new 2020 twin 300 Suzukis on it, so two new motors this year.
I'll put a picture up. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put a picture up. It's a beautiful boat. It's really eye-catching. And so how far offshore do you guys go typically?
So on a typical day, we'll run anywhere from 40 up to 100 miles. So all depends on the day and kind of this time of the year. Summertime is when we do more of our longer trips because we get a lot nicer weather.
Right.
Versus wintertime when we have all the cold fronts, and we have a little bit shorter time windows to run offshore and for better sea conditions and that. So
right. I've had center console boats gone offshore. It's daunting when you're doing it, in your own boat. And usually we went, not for you, but for regular guys that buy a boat and they have this thought that, hey, I'm going to go offshore fishing. The first time you get out there and, the land disappears and you still have, a long way to go, it's daunting, to go all that way out. And I always went with other guys a lot of times. And I had some issues sometimes that were totally my fault, but, it'll
happen. It'll really happen. It's all about experience.
Right.
Over on our coast, we do have to run pretty far offshore to get to really good quality fishing. But over time, you get used to it. It's all about having the proper safety gear.
Right.
That's really the biggest thing.
Right.
We actually last week on Friday, we were on our way back from a trip, and we actually ran into this boat that flagged us down. We were 46 miles offshore. They ran out of fuel.
Oh my gosh.
They were in a 24-foot center console. They had no means of communication. They had no VHF radio. They didn't have any safety gear, anything. Thank God we went and we were in that area and we went up to them because, who knows what would have happened otherwise.
Right, and finding a boat, even if you're looking for it, is not easy, let alone lucking across another boat coming across. And so what did you guys do? You called it in?
So we tried to get a hold of our towboat companies here in Fort Myers, Sea Tow and Towboat US. They didn't respond, so I got a hold of U.S. Coast Guard St. Pete, and we walked through them. They went ahead and contacted their towboat company out of here, Towboat US, and they ended up dispatching them out and sending fuel. And the Coast Guard actually deployed one of their assets because we couldn't stay on scene. So Coast Guard actually deployed one of their go fast boats to run out there and make sure they were all right. And until Towboat US got out. Yeah. So safety is really the biggest thing for running way far out.
Right. I had a issue where the float switch on my bilge pump was defective, and I didn't know it. And I'm a pilot, so when you fly an airplane, you check everything. A lot of people go out on the boat, they don't check those types of things. And we stopped, and the boat was full of water because the live well was pumping water into the... It was just a combination of things, which it almost always is.
Typically, yeah. Little things like that, people, especially if you don't use a boat very often, if you use it maybe a few times a month, then those little things get overlooked, and boats are notorious for breaking when you really want to use them. So you really have to kind of stay on top of it and maintain it all the time, constantly checking all the little things. Everything needs to be perfect for that trip.
Right.
So.
And these guys have an absolutely beautiful boat. It's pretty sweet. Talk about the drop off, because we talked about that when I talked to you on the phone. When you're over on the East Coast and you're in 1,000 feet of water and you can still see the beach, over here it's a gradual slope. But you said there were like benefits to that.
So there are some pretty good benefits, West Coast versus East Coast, and that's for Florida. So for the West Coast of Florida, our gradual decline in the Gulf is every mile is about 2 feet. So that means once you hit about 100 miles offshore, you'll only be in about 200 foot of water. So the benefit where that comes to is we have a little bit better bottom fishery versus the East Coast of Florida, where on their side, you go out 3-4 miles, you'll already be in a couple hundred feet of water. So on this coast, you have to run pretty far offshore to get to some really good grouper snapper fishing, whereas the East Coast, everyone is fishing that same stretch that runs north and south. So from 40 to 150 foot of water, you have the whole population fishing that little stretch of bottom.
Right.
Versus here on the West Coast, you can go out 40 miles and then you can fish you can fish shallower too. You can go from 30 miles out to 200 miles, 100 miles. So you can bottom fish all of that. So you have a lot more square footage, a lot more area, a lot more spots that you can fish. So you'll tend to do better over on this coast for the bottom species.
Which is counterintuitive, because everybody always thinks, if you go to Fort Lauderdale, you can get in super deep water really quick, but it's a line you're fishing instead of just this massive expanse.
Yes. So the East Coast does have quite a bit more pelagics, the tuna, the dolphin, the mahi-mahi, the sailfish, wahoo. So you have more of those pelagic species that are running up in the Gulf Stream. So that is the one benefit for the East Coast, that you have a little bit more trolling and stuff like that, versus we do a lot more bottom fishing on the West Coast.
And so tell us about the fish. What are the typical species that you guys target?
So our typical species are grouper, snapper. Come wintertime, we'll get more into the bigger amberjacks, sharks, goliaths, barracudas, cobia move in. Cobia are more of a pelagic species, so they move.
They're delicious
with the seasons. I'm not a big fan of cobia.
Really?
No, I'm not a big fan of cobia. Cobia is one of those species that you kind of have to have a specific taste for.
They're fun to catch because they're humongous.
They can be real big, yes. Yeah. An average size good one, looking 30 pounds, but they can go up to 80 pounds sometimes.
And then the grouper and snapper, what type of sizes are you looking at?
So mostly the majority of our grouper that we have are red grouper here. Red grouper need to be 20 inches to be illegal to keep total length. So red grouper, we'll get into some gag grouper more in the summertime when we run a little bit deeper trips out to like 160, 180, 200 foot of water. Every once in a while, you'll run into a black grouper here and there. And I mean, that's about the groupers. Snapper, mangrove snapper, summertime red snapper, yellowtails, lanes, vermilions, once in a while muttons. So we have a good variety of species that we can go and target.
And now, do you guys do live bait, or do you do like frozen stuff, or how do you do that?
So typically every day before we go and pick up our clients, we try going and netting live bait.
Okay.
So we want to go, we like having the most possibilities, because every day is different offshore. I mean, between yesterday and today, those grouper could be biting from cut bait, dead bait, and today they want live bait. So it really depends on the day. So you really have to go out there with the widest spread possible.
You told me on the phone that you guys have a new trolling motor set up.
Yes. So this one company called Rodan, they're based out of Sarasota. They've been in the trolling motor industry for quite a few years. In the last 3 or 4 years, they just came out with very long ones. So they came out with an 84-inch one a few years back, and now last year they came out with a 96-inch trolling motor.
That's 8 feet long.
That's 8 feet long, yeah. So we just installed that on the bow of our Yellowfin, and what a difference it makes. No more anchoring. It's a total game changer. It's pretty incredible.
How much does the Yellowfin weigh?
The Yellowfin is about 10,500 pounds.
It seems crazy that an electric trolling motor can hold that thing in place in, obviously it's not flat calm out there when you go every time.
In flat seas, I was able to push the boat, 2.3 miles an hour, which that's pretty fast for a 10,500 pound boat. That's
right.
pretty quick. We fished a couple days where it was 2 to 3 foot chop, and it held us within a 5 foot circle. Like we didn't go more than 5 feet away, which is incredible.
So you don't have to, like, you just get on scene, you push the button.
I just click the button, hit the A button, and we sit. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Because anchoring is, that's a hassle.
Well, it can be both good and bad. Some days, if it is too rough, obviously we'll put out the anchor. But in between fishing spots, we can fish a lot more places in a day versus you set the anchor, got to drift back, see where you're sitting. If you're not sitting right, you got to pull it, do it again, readjust. And sometimes the current and wind just don't want to be cooperative, especially on the really flat days. If you don't have a lot of wind and then you have a little bit of current or no current and that wind comes up, pushes you off 40 feet, you pull the anchor, reset it, and now the wind pushes you back the other way.
Right.
So you have a little bit of change, which can be very frustrating. So
right.
with that trolling motor, just hit the lock button and we sit right there and we can start fishing real quick.
One of my neighbors told me about a friend of his that has that. I was like, a trolling motor? And he only had like a 23-footer. But technology, man, it's like awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
Speaking of speed, like, this is the other thing that when I talked to you, I never thought of this, using the fast center console for this type of business. I've been on offshore fishing trips in a 60-foot old Hatteras-y type style boat. And what do they run, 10, 12 knots?
They can push a little faster, maybe 15, 17 knots.
But still, it's like a long way out.
Yes.
And it's like you're just because you meet there super early in the morning because you have to, because it's like 3 hours out and you're only really in like 40 feet of water, 50, 60 feet of water. Whereas with your boat, how fast do you guys cruise?
So we cruise anywhere from 34 to 37 mile an hour. So we can, in an hour, we can move pretty quick. All depends on the sea conditions. If the sea conditions are a little bit bumpier, then we do have to slow it down a little bit. But on the really flat days, we get out there real quick, and that's what really sets us apart, that we can go and fish deeper areas, deeper water versus the bigger, slower diesel boats.
Right.
So we can fish deeper. We can get into a lot better quality fish versus those boats can. So that's really that's a big thing for us to be able to run out deep on just single day trips.
Right, and it's a big thing for clients too because they're spending less time riding and more time fishing.
Yes,
and
absolutely. If
you want to go for the same amount of boat ride time, you're in deeper water, which gives you bigger variety, right?
Yes, a bigger variety and just better quality too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us about the typical trips that you guys do. You said you do full day. So how does it work with the?
So we do only full and extended days. So we don't offer any half days or anything like that because we do have to run so far offshore. You can go fishing near shore. Your days aren't going to be nearly as good as running offshore. So all the photos that we have online, those are all from deeper trips. The last red tide we had in 2017, 2018. That really did a number on our area. All our near shore stuff to about 30 miles was almost completely destroyed. We had a lot of live bottom, sea fan, coral areas. Most of it, things are rebounding now. We'll catch some smaller red grouper, and when we're out speaking for larger baits and stuff, you'll see little groupers and stuff like that moving in, which is pretty important because that's how the habitat starts. That's like the nursery for most of these fish. So we don't offer any of those trips anymore. It's just not conducive. We want everyone to have a good time and to come back and book with us again the following years if they come back. So we offer 8 hours all the way up to 14-hour trips.
Okay.
So on average, we do our most popular trip is 10 hours. That gives you a good variety of running out there, getting some good eating fish, grouper, snapper, but also a majority of our clients are from the Midwest or
that's where
Northeast,
I'm from.
and they love catching big fish. So they're used to fishing lakes for smallmouth, largemouth, crappie, pike, muskie. So when they come down here, they put them on a 200-pound Goliath or a 150-pound big bull shark. That's real exciting for them.
Right.
So we do a good variety of both. So 10 hours gives you a good split of both. So if you want to go for some good eating fish to take home and then go tug on something real big. So that's about our most popular trip.
Yeah, that's when I was a kid. I caught a 16-inch walleye, and there was like my parents had a picture of it on the mantle, you know. And then when I got down here, you see, like I went out fishing for snook with a friend, and you know you get like a 34-inch snook. It's like, you know, after a while of that, when you see your friends' pictures on Facebook of their giant whatever, it's like bait.
Yeah, so it kind of spoils it for some of them who come down and fish here when they have to go back up and fish their ice holes in the wintertime when we're still wearing our shorts and sandals. So
right. Yeah, that's the thing I love about Florida is I always walk to my mailbox with no shoes on.
Exactly.
Like every day.
No need to shovel the driveway or
none of
any of that. Nope.
Yeah. So you got, how long is the full day, you said?
So full day is 8 hours. So
Okay.
8 hours is our minimum. The travel time is about an hour and a half each way,
Right.
roughly an hour and a half each way, since we are running out to 40, 50, 60 miles offshore. So that travel time does cut into it, but it's a benefit because when we run out there, we're running to spots that we know there are fish.
Right.
So we're not running out there to go put out lines in and troll and maybe get a bite.
And hope something happens.
Yeah. No, we run to the spots that we know that we have that are going to be productive.
Because that's when I used to do it. We used to run out. It would cost at least $200 in like a 24-foot boat, at least. And sometimes came back with nothing. Best case scenario, I'd come back, split all the fish with my friends, and then clean all the blood off the boat after they
Took off.
said toodaloo.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, there's a great benefit. And also, we talked about this on the phone too, the benefit of going out with a professional is the learning experience. It's not just going out and getting on the fish, but it's actually seeing how a guy who does it for a living and knows what the hell he's doing, how they do it. And talk about you guys are sponsored by a reel company?
Yeah, we're sponsored by one company in Pennsylvania. They're called IRT Reels, Innovative Reel Technologies. They're a small builder in Pine Grove, Pennsylvania, and they started after Penn moved their manufacturing to China.
Okay.
So basically, one gentleman, he started the company. He was upset that Penn left. He started the company, and it's 100% made in American reel. They're pretty pricey, but they are made in America, and that's why we stand behind them. And those are the reels we use, and I've never used anything better than that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have Made in America boat. You got the old Made in America reels.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a big difference in technology in stuff that's designed here.
That too, but not only that, but for quality. Quality is really the biggest thing because we do put everything to the test.
Right.
We'll average 80 to 120, 130 trips a year. So everything gets used. Everything is salty. So everything has to be made to withstand.
Right.
From your trailer to your electronics to everything has to be able to withstand the salt environment because it is very harsh.
It definitely is.
It is.
And anybody that has a boat and lets it sit can attest to that.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
brutal.
It can be, yeah.
So what was the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about? You guys do inshore stuff as well, correct?
Yes, we have a 21-foot action craft coastal bay. I run the inshore trips. So inshore trips are quite a bit less expensive since we aren't running 40, 60 miles offshore in a large 600 horsepower boat. It's
Right.
$100 an hour otherwise. But for that, we fish for snook, redfish, trout. Sometimes we'll get into some sharks and ladyfish. So
And do you guys use live bait for that as well?
yes, live. Honestly, there's a lot of people who are very on the fence of they like fishing jigs, artificial. I love fishing live bait.
Yeah.
Live bait is a much quicker, faster way to get fish because you know if the fish are there, they're going to be eaten. I
Right.
love live chumming. With a lot of pilchards, you go up to some mangroves, you throw that out there. If those fish are there, they're going to start eating real quick, and it's on.
Right.
So you get more of an instant gratification with live bait versus artificial. Artificial has its perks sometimes too, especially with trout and on the flats where you can get a good bite going. But I love fishing live bait.
Yeah. And live bait is ideal if you're all set up for it.
Yes, but with live bait comes a lot of time and knowledge to know the season and what kind of live bait we have. Because we'll go from having big threadfin to having pilchards to where the threadfin and pilchards are still spawning, so they're real tiny. So you have to go and figure out certain areas where they're at, and it takes time. It takes time.
Absolutely. And that's, when you first start fishing, it's like all Greek, but it takes a long time to learn it. One way to really shortcut the learning curve is to go on a trip with a pro.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of shortcuts that you'll learn and see that over time you'll understand them and you'll learn them yourself, but going with a guide, because we always explain certain knots. We'll show different rigs, techniques, this, that. So you kind of get a better idea versus if you just go out for yourself the first time, you don't really know where to go or what to do. So you get a pretty good idea on kind of what you need to focus on and what you can do to make yourself better.
Right. Yeah, because you get some numbers from some guy at church or whatever, and then you go 35 miles out, like freaking out that the weather's going to change or you're not going to get back in time or something's going to go wrong. And then, because I've lived this, you go by and like, $50,000-$60,000 boat, like just to start. These guys' boat is like, some people would have to sell their house to buy it. And, you go all the way out there, fill the boat up with gas, bait, sandwiches, whatever else you bring, and then you come back with nothing. It's usually a tough one to break to the wife that, it was all for nothing.
Typically, yeah. Well, then that's the one thing that over time you'll learn an area, you'll learn how to fish an area, and
over time, the key phrase.
I mean, it really is. Through years looking past that, I mean, I have a logbook where I'll mark down every trip that we have. So let's say we fished 3 times last week, so I have every day marked down, and I can look at years past. Hey, on this moon, on this tide, on this water temperature, we had fronts coming through. This was what that good bite was. Right. So having a log is really important because you can look back at years past. So I've been keeping it for 5 years. So I can look back at, hey, I know what bait was here, when the good bait was here. So it's really important to kind of mark that down, and you'll start seeing patterns. Right. You'll start seeing the patterns. And once you understand the patterns, everything makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely. But it takes time to build those patterns.
Yes.
But that's and the reason I had you on is because a lot of people come down and they want to experience this kind of stuff, but it is daunting to just go out. Like, when I lived in Europe, you had to go through all these classes. Like, you had to have a license to drive a boat.
Yes.
And here you just can come and go down to the Yellowfin dealer and give them $280,000 and get a boat like yours, and then, get yourself in trouble or like never figure it out. It could be daunting. And, all the times that I've gone on offshore fishing trips with professionals, it's a totally different game. And I did learn a lot from that. Like when I did back bay fishing, a friend of mine has been doing it forever. He's like a Harvard grad, so everything he does is like science. And that's where I learned how to back bay fish is from him, and the offshore fishing stuff is, you can learn. It's a lot more than just fish, for one thing, and memories. It's a really good learning experience to go offshore with someone who knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if people want to get a hold of you guys to book a charter, where do they do that?
Well, there's a few ways. So best way is to call us. The phone number is 239-849-7959, or you can also visit us at our website at www.offshorehuntercharters.com. Or even if you're having trouble, you can just go into Google, type in Offshore Hunter Charters, and we pop right up there.
Right, and you'll see the on the website. There's a picture of a big yellowfin with a bunch of giant fish on it.
Yep.
And I just bumped into these guys at Punta Rassa at the dock, and I could just tell that they were good from the time that they took, just talking about their boat and their business, the electronics. I mean, when you add it all up in your head, what they have invested in this, not just money in the boat and the gear, but in time, it's, I implore you, if you want to come down here and you're thinking about living in this area and you want to see what offshore fishing is all about, go out with a pro, have your hand held a couple of times at least. And maybe you'll decide that, you want to just get a boat that's a different kind of boat, like more of a cushy family boat for inshore stuff. And when you go offshore, you just go with the pros and make it happen that way.
Well, I mean, for even around for this area for Southwest Florida, having a cruising boat, a deck boat, it's fantastic because you have a lot of water you can explore. A lot of people, you might not be into fishing, but this area holds a lot of opportunities for you to go out and do a lot of cruising. We have some beautiful beaches, especially when you get up to North Captiva, Cayo Costa.
It's like the Bahamas.
I mean, it's beautiful. You have emerald green water. We have a lot of restaurants by boat on North Captiva, Cabbage Key, in Cape Coral, Boathouse in Cape Coral, up the river, the Boathouse on 31. There's a lot of places to go by boat. Just cruise around, go to the beach, and it's warm.
Right.
Can't beat it.
Okay, so if you guys want to go offshore and you want to go with a pro, then check out Offshore Hunter. Give us the website one more time.
It's offshorehuntercharters.com.
Offshorehuntercharters.com. And I'll have links to their website and contact information in the show notes. Chris, it was great. Captain Chris, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. It was a good time. Thank you.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.